On to the final hour of the Situation Room today. And also just getting closer and closer to watching the second episode of Zari on Maisha Magic Plus tonight, 8:30 p.m.
It premiered yesterday, and so what you need to do is switch on to DSTV channel 163 or GoTV channel 3 to enjoy this scintillating drama where, in the ways of certain man, two women are caught in the crosshairs by his own doing, and he's managed to get one of them pregnant and has decided to go to the other one to seek funds to assist this other one in hospital. I know you want to watch it. And so all you need to do to find out the drama that unfolds day after day, every day this week from Monday, which was yesterday, until Friday, to find out exactly what happens, you can also download the My DSTV or the My GoTV app on *423# and then watch whenever you want and find out how the drama unfolds. It's Zari.
Very good indeed. So let's have a planning conversation. We planned to have this conversation today. So let's have it.
Let's implement the plan.
Let's implement the plan.
Okay.
Bas. And we are joined by two planners in the studio. Patrick Silili Adolwa has been here before. He's a planner and urban specialist. He's here alongside Odongo Tom, who is also a planner. Principal partner, Impaque Consultants Limited. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Karibuni tena to Kenya's biggest conversation. How long has it been since the last time you were here?
Karibu mwaka mzima.
I think is it?
It's almost
Was it before elections or after elections?
Okay, well,
No, it's after election.
And it's just the other day.
Time flies.
Yeah, we measure with elections.
Yes.
If it's within this election cycle, we're fine.
We are good.
We're doing good.
If there's no election, Christmas.
Yeah.
Was it before or
Was
after
it
Christmas?
Christmas or after Christmas?
I like the way you guys measure it. Seasons.
Yes. It's a Kenyan way of doing it. Now, to welcome you to the conversation, CT has the day's proverb from the very many islands of Zanzibar.
Yes. Heri kujikwaa kidole kuliko ulimi.
Heri kujikwaa kidole kuliko ulimi. Let's start with you, Patrick. What's a translation of that, not interpretation? Translate that to English.
Translate into English.
Start with
Heri
heri.
kujikwaa kidole kuliko ulimi.
Yes.
See?
Quite something. I
Can't think
I
of
can
it.
figure it out. Well, don't trade in places that are
Just do a direct translation. Direct translation.
Then you can go
Heri
into the meaning.
kujikwaa
Yeah.
kidole
Kuliko
kuliko ulimi.
ulimi.
Direct translation.
you'd rather injure your finger than bite your tongue.
Huyu hata amejiuma.
Tayari.
Hata ameongeza
do it directly,
kujiuma
you
hapo
don't-
ndani.
I'm with you.
He didn't ask me to be idiomatic
You're
about it.
okay.
Bwana amechukua methali akaenda akajiuma kidole.
You're very okay.
He gave me the
In
freedom
fact,
to do so.
You're very okay. Don't even worry about it.
Yes.
Tom, just give it a try as well.
What do I think? Olimi is a powerful pronouncement, and the finger seemed to me like the other one seemed to me like a mental power, and the other one looks to me like a physical power. And I would think that the mental power is that which drives our journey in life, and the physical is the manifestation of that mental power.
Where?
I'm always fascinated.
He always says any interpretation is good to go.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we always learn, and that's why we ask our guests to interpret, because you cannot guess what someone is going to take from the proverb.
Okay.
Yes, like this one. Hey, Tom, you've done it.
You know, he's spiritual, so you tend to go that way. You know.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. But then, Patrick, you actually did not give us your interpretation. You just hazarded a translation.
I think that the tongue is powerful. You need to use it judiciously. And the conversation we're about to have is one such conversation where we really need to be to balance things out. And I think it's a very important conversation because it touches on the evolution of the state of Kenya. And sometimes people don't take it that easily. People don't take it that seriously. And we just need to balance things so that we don't get into murky waters, if you wish.
Interesting.
Very dicey conversation.
Very good.
Yeah.
Last time you were here, we were asking about planning and urban planning. And we were even asking, do we have plans in this country? And he told us, yes, there have been plans in existence since before independence. Some of those plans have actually even been updated. And then we have people who sit in certain offices and their job is to, number one, implement those plans and ensure that there's adherence to the set plan. Then we talked about particularly the urban areas and how, for example, Nairobi has evolved and how many planners we had. And then we saw the towns becoming bigger towns and becoming cities. And we're getting more and more cities. Eldoret is going to be a city soon. And others should be becoming cities soon. In a few years' time, many of these places that we first called villages and small towns will be cities and will be large urban dwellings. The question that is on everybody's mind looking at the example of Nairobi is Kenya ready, for example, for Isiolo being a giant city? Is Kenya ready for all these other small towns being big cities? And that's it. And that's where now the planners come in. Yeah.
And if we're talking about big cities and we look at Nairobi and the manner in which it's managed, if we use that now as the example that will be followed by other emerging cities, then we have a disaster in the making. Because the monolith that we have as Nairobi, as it currently stands, if I'm to go by the conversation we started and touched on your last here, the way it is currently constituted is not the best way it should be in order to be managed effectively.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad that you're back at this subject because the question about and around the city of Nairobi is a monumental question. And many people want to address it just as sketchily as they can. And they think it's one big political issue. It's not. And the framers of the Constitution found it necessary to make Nairobi and Mombasa counties. And there was good reason for Nairobi and Mombasa to be made counties. But they qualified to be counties because they were already distinct administrative units. They were provinces. But they are also cities in their own right. And as cities, they had suffered from lack of direction, lack of priority. And the Ministry then of Local Government did not give cities the priorities that they deserved. And I think that the advent of devolution actually attempted to ensure that these two cities, counties, get the proper finances that they needed to have, because they also contributed a significant amount of revenues to the national economy. And those of us who worked in the urban sector were always appalled at the lack of recognition of the role of cities in the national economy. And I think that the mere fact that these cities were elevated to county status was the best thing that ever happened. But that was just the first step. Now, going forward, has anything come out of it? And I think that's a very pertinent question. Now that we have 2 city counties, how have we managed them? And that is the question. How do we manage these cities beyond the office of the governor? It's a pertinent question we need to ask ourselves. Yeah.
There have been, I remember when the governor of Nairobi County spoke about divvying up the city rather into, semi-administrative boroughs,
Yes.
whereby you would then be able to have administration of certain things done
Yes.
as the city would be split up,
Yes,
essentially,
yes.
for better management and for things like
yeah.
that, in terms of also hierarchy of when things were supposed to be done.
Yeah.
How could that, and he seems to be still intent on having that done. I don't know when or how this will play out, but would it seem as though it would be something that could actually help? We've seen this in other countries. We see it whereby cities have been split so that each borough then has its administration, and then you go through like that. With the way things currently sit, and let's take Nairobi as an example, because there's so many things that just seem to be up in the air. There's water. Look at
There you go.
I mean, infrastructure when it comes to collection of garbage and disposal of the same, when it comes to then erection of equipment, when it comes to sewage, when it comes to lighting. I mean, we could go on for days. Does that make sense then to divvy up the city into boroughs so that the administration of and the erection of certain infrastructure then is easier?
It does. In fact, it is 10 years overdue. Those who inherited the city counties, both Mombasa and Nairobi, 10 years ago, failed to undertake the necessary steps to make those cities functional. They missed the opportunity. They did not understand why those cities were made city counties. And they continued in the old mold as if they did not have the instruments. And in fact, the excuse that there are no apparatus for devolving those cities further is just but an excuse. Because there is legislation between the County Government Act and the Urban Areas and Cities Act. You do not need anything more to go to the next steps that you're talking about. And let me tell you, if you're the governor of Nairobi, you're in trouble because you have the most complex county in Kenya. You have almost 5 million people on your hands. You have a very complex system. You have the biggest economy of any county. But you're still sitting out at the town hall in the CBD. You have no clue what the dynamics are. But you can make a choice to use the law to make sure that this system is manageable. Okay? You can use the County Government Act and go into the sub-counties, but you also can use the Urban Areas and Cities Act, which tells you you're at liberty to create municipalities. Surely, on the basis of the population thresholds that you have. Let me tell you, any one of the sub-counties of Nairobi is bigger than many counties.
Yes.
So, the governor of the city of Nairobi is actually managing
Several
6 counties. He's managing 6 counties. Why would I want the pain of having to run 6 counties in a small area like this? I mean, I would disperse it. I would make sure that there are instruments for making sure that these are managed so that I can have my sleep at the same time.
But when you say manage, what do you mean?
Now, manage is so many things. Is to run all those services that she's talking about, to make sure that roads, are properly built and the traffic is properly managed, that water is reticulated, that street lights are working and all that. Now, if you have to do that for nearly 5 million people sitting in 17 sub-counties, you're in trouble because each one of those sub-counties is actually a big county by itself. And there's no human, notwithstanding what capacities they have at a personal level, that can hack this if they do not decentralize systems. That's my point, really.
Tom.
Yeah.
So the legal framework is there to do those things that Patrick is talking about. Is there a political framework to actually allow for this decentralization?
To start with, I think, let me just put a context to this. Article 174 is very, very clear that powers of central governance has been given to the people. So it's not a question of governor decides to give them or no access to that or not. The second one is that the same article is also talking about decentralization of provision of services. We are talking about provision of services to proximate and easily accessible. So we must measure successful devolution in terms of how provision of services are proximate and easily accessible. The second one is also decentralizing functions and responsibilities to the lowest level possible. Why has this not happened? UACA, the County Government Act and Urban Areas and Cities Act provided framework. The framework is there. But I think this starts from where did devolution start? Devolution started with assault on the imperial presidency. And something that we missed out is that if you are able to dismantle the imperial presidency, could you end up with another hegemonic governance at a lower level?
Yeah, 47 warlords.
Yes. and unfortunately, that is where we are. Because you would find that at the county government level, they do not seem to accept devolution below county. Deepening devolution is not something that is prioritized. And then the second part of it also is that in devolution, we have also created what we call multi-level planning, development planning. It's not just the county government that invest, make sure that cities are run properly or that the infrastructure are developed, also the national government. And again, the same Article 174 also talks about national government having to decentralize state organs, their functions and services to the lowest level. Could be regional, could be urban areas and cities. Have this all happened? What we find is that these have not all happened, and simply because number one is I think that, and this I would differentiate between the presidency and governance. The presidency, upon being elected, its powers that are given to that particular office seem to percolate to certain institutions, and those institutions are able to exercise that power. Unfortunately for the powers of the governors, don't seem to be having.
They don't move.
They don't seem
powers
to.
don't
Absolutely
percolate.
not.
They don't
No.
percolate.
They don't percolate.
They don't percolate. And that means that by virtue of being a close friend of a governor, I can actually exercise raw power. Yeah. And then the question is that then how are we supposed to change this? Changing this would have been creating a very, very strong public service system. And if you look at one of the missing link in counties, is that counties don't have what we call public service.
What do you mean?
What I mean is
Absolutely.
Counties have a governor.
a civil service
Yeah.
that in terms of qualitative terms and quantitative terms is fit for purpose. It's not there in counties. And that's still lagging very behind a lot, seriously. And this is the critical one, really, that would make counties be able to deliver services, be able to plan, execute plans, and all that is required to be done.
How did we miss this? Because before 2013,
Yes.
did we have a public service working at the local authorities? Fit for purpose and all those other words you've used.
At local government?
Yes, I think
There existed one,
They existed.
but it was weak. It was weak because national government then did not promote a strong civil service in the counties. So there was always a lame duck civil service in the municipalities and in the county councils. Okay? But still, the technical services were operated not very effectively, but the conditions and situation is worse, much worse now, because the counties have not promoted the establishment of a strong civil service. In fact, the civil service, this is the weakest point in the county government system. And let me explain this. If you look at the executive in the counties, if you look at the county assembly, it is fully established. All the organs are working, all the committees are working, all the positions are filled, the resources are allocated. If you look at the executive, the CECs are there, the committees are there, the governor is in place, all the resources are allocated. If you look at the county public service, then you are staring at a monumental problem. It is completely underdeveloped. In fact, the only aspect of the county government service, the public service that is operationalized, is that which serves the political elites. It is the finance, okay?
Yeah.
It is the audit, okay?
Procurement.
It is procurement. But you're talking about engineering, you're talking about agriculture, you're talking
Planning.
about forestry, you're talking about planning.
Health is
Do your
working
audits
well now.
if you like.
Health has actually.
is a special
Health is
case,
the
eh?
only. Health is the only. Yes, you can speak for health.
Yes, yeah.
But you can imagine what rumblings are going on in the health sector in the
Not
country.
for lack of public service.
Absolutely not.
It's for other things.
But yes, if we are very objective, let us give an audit to the county public service. Then we will begin to put a finger on what actually ails the devolution.
Operation.
Okay.
What is the issue? Was it that transition? So because previously when we had one government with local authorities, the central government was not really supporting proper local authorities with staff. And so at the point of transition into counties, there was really nothing to absorb or to inherit. Is that part of the problem? Because we have a structure, we have a body called the County Public Service Board, which is like the Public Service Commission at national level, that is supposed to be working on creating a public service that works at county level.
What tradition does it have? Who is there? What systems do they have?
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that the issue?
It's a big problem.
But I think also after the Constitution 2010, there was to be realignment of institutions.
Yes.
And at the beginning, there was something which was called CAPS. CAPS was a way in which the two levels of government were to share resources that includes even the human resources. And the national government was the implementer, because according to the Constitution, capacity building even at it's national government function.
Yeah.
Along the way, the national government abandoned the CAP process and then ask county governments that you have to build your own capacities. And I think that is when now things went wrong, because with the exception of health, which they were able to move staff in mass to the county government, the rest of the areas, unbundling of functions, sharing of responsibilities and resources never saw the light of the day. And that means that counties was effectively we dismembered the local government system that was there and begin to reconstruct a new system of public service at the local level. And that has remained underdeveloped until today.
But and yet
the other thing also the other thing that is also has been a question is remember when we were discussing this constitution, the issue was, do we have a unitary public service system so that we have the Public Service Commission as to be the agent that recruit all
both levels
for both levels. And the argument came that if we do that, then allegiance the allegiance would be to the national government.
Yeah.
And so this was abandoned, and we created what now we call public service boards. And I think that is probably where we go wrong. We went wrong a little bit, because it's not so much about how we fragment these institutions that should be able to correct this, because these are actually at the whims of the governors, so to speak, because we have got a hegemonic government. This hegemonic governance also swallows the public service boards in it, because the influence of the governors is very, very strong. And then the question also is that who is going to develop this administrative and management structure of the county government, because the only thing that governor is supposed to do is to come up with a portfolio structure. And once he has done the portfolio structure, the management structure is supposed to be developed by the staff that he will have brought on board. And the assumption is that they understand devolution, they understand the roles and responsibilities of the county so well that they would be able to evolve that structure and be able to populate that structure with quality, staff. That has not happened.
But again, you made the point that there was a bit of a lapse. There was a bit of a crisis in the unbundlement of functions and the sharing of staff.
Yes.
I mean, Kenya as a country did not lack the professional staff that was required to be shared between the two levels. And because the county was the last mile service delivery outpost, they were supposed to be the mkono, watu wa mkono. Yeah? So Schedule 4 devolves the last mile functions to the county. And all these people working in national government who are suited for last mile applications and functions are supposed to go with devolution. And a lot of people say we're not going to the county. It was not supposed to be discretionary. It was supposed to be the constitutional edict.
Exactly. Yes.
It was not for anybody to say, I'm national government, I'm not going to seek
Sio
space.
tafadhali.
Sio tafadhali.
Yes.
And people refused to go. I mean, technical people refused to go. People in medicine were reluctant. To this day, they are still saying they need their own commission. Yeah. So there was a crisis there, and there is a way in which that needs to be revisited, because we still have a lot of people hanging in national government who have no business in national government. They need to devolve and go and work in the counties. And it's not a demotion, it's just working at a different level.
What you're
of
supposed to be doing
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. 26 minutes to 10. This conversation continues, Devolving Devolution, and that's what we call our topic today. We are hosting Patrick Adolwa and Tom Odongo. Both are experts on planning and urban development. They're here this morning talking about this. Let's take this break. We'll be back shortly after we take a look at the weather and traffic.
Spice.
Talking about planning and devolving devolution, as we called it. So you've raised that issue, weakness at public service levels, the penchant by elected governors to hold on to power, and clinging on to power then means that they're also not even thinking about allowing the creation of these other units that can help better deliver service to the population, despite there being laws that can help them do this, creating towns, creating municipalities, creating all these things. But I wonder why. You ask yourself, why would I campaign so much to be a governor of Nairobi, and then I have to deal with those very minute things instead of just creating these units that would work better for me and I'll get the glory? So why would the governors hold on to this?
It's a good question, and it has to be asked as many times as is necessary for people to begin to audit why we have devolution in the first place. And who is the sovereign in the devolved state? Okay, and it's a very important question, because it would seem that the devolved units are about governors and not about people and not about services. And to that extent, then we begin to ask, was it necessary for us to devolve if the services are not provided, and if people are not considered to be the sovereign, and if there is nothing that happens beyond the office of the governor? And that is why people invariably still crowd county offices needlessly. There is no reason why people should go out to the county office. The people need their service down in their locality. That was the purpose and object of devolution. It has not happened, unfortunately.
But why? We have ward administrators. That's a structure.
The term
created.
administrator is, in fact, to me, the problem. I mean, this is not about public administration. This is supposed to be the administration of technical services. This is about people sitting in a local municipality in Langata and making decisions about how to clean their streets, how to make sure that water is supplied, the local medical facility works, the playgrounds are properly taken care of, the cemetery is not stinking without a wall around it. Those are the things that are supposed to happen. So the local area is supposed to be the hub It's supposed to be where things happen. That is where the buzz thing is going on.
Minus the governor.
Minus the governor. And the administrator is a distant, operative that has nothing to do with local people. He represents the center.
Yeah, it is still central control because what you find is that what decentralization does is that the governor spreads his tentacles into sub-county level. And this is basically to a sub-control. It's not necessarily taking power to the citizens, decentralizing functions and services to that level. Because if that was the case, then there would be a management structure which is parallel to this administrative structure that take decision making to the sub-county level, including service delivery. Because power of self-governance has been given to the people. It's not at the discretion of the governor to take that power, decenter that power to that level. Is actually a constitutional obligation. Secondly, when it comes to, remember we are talking urban, Article 184, I think that if it was discretion on governors to decide this, then Article 184 would have indicated that governors shall decide how cities would be run. But it indicated that Parliament shall enact a law that then would spell out how urban areas, cities and urban areas shall be run. And Parliament has done so. I think it is no longer discretionary. It must be done the way it is provided for in law. And why is this significant? And I think that we need to make this understood. Kenya has identified urbanization is a critical transformative force that we would like to leverage so that we are able to transform our economy and also to give access to quality, good standard of living for majority of Kenyans. So therefore, the issue of how we run cities is not necessarily an issue that has to be decided by governors exclusively. And that is why there is a provision, a constitutional provision on how it should be done. How is it being done currently? I think there is resistance to any form of devolution that is below county. And these two things are happening. One is that I know there is a lot of political interest in urban areas and cities. They are the main source of revenue for most counties.
Yes.
And when now Urban Areas and Cities Act tells them that you are supposed to decentralize management of these urban areas, including fiscal decentralization, that they must also be independent in terms of fiscal arrangements, then there is resistance to it. And the resistance is that is about controlling the budgets. To me, it's about
it's the money issue.
It's the money issue.
And money
is the money issue.
Money is equals power.
Yet if these are done successfully, the credit still goes to the governor.
You know, let me see if I get it right. Yes. With the example that you gave, Patrick, on Langata residents having this decision-making power to determine what happens around them. Let's take Kiambu County. And just look at the urban areas in Kiambu County. Start with Thika, Ruiru, Juja, Kiambu itself. We go to Kikuyu, Thogoto, Kabete, Ruaka, Banana, Vendegua. The Degua is there.
Yes.
I'm glad you pick on those.
All these two areas basically should have like some sort of.
They should be
yes, but if you didn't do that, what would you do?
Administration.
If you didn't do that, what capacity, Eric, would you have as a governor to run Ruiru, which has the population of a city, Thika, which has the population of a city, Juja, which has a population of a city,
Kiambu
town itself. What would you humanly be able to do?
So are we saying that those things? Are we saying that? So these administrations don't exist, right? are we saying then that if you look at it from a centralized role where Nairobi is supposed to be handling that,
Yes.
just as an example,
Yeah.
okay, Kiambu is supposed to be handling that, are we saying that then the administration for, infrastructure, setting up some of these things, then are essentially not happening?
Absolutely. For example, in Kiambu, and I'm glad that you pick out Kiambu as a good case. In fact, that's a PhD in the offing for many people. The planning services for the whole of Kiambu County are run at the county headquarters. Can you do the town planning of 4 cities in Kiambu County from the seat of the county executive in charge of urban planning?
Difficult.
That's disaster in the making. That's why there's nothing that is going to happen on the ground. There will be development that is not properly managed. There will be no planning. There will be no delivery of services because the
Sheer
county has refused to allow the law to take devolution to another level. And those entities that are called Juja, whatever,
Ruiru.
Kiambu, Ruiru,
Thika.
Thika, are recognized in law. The Urban Areas and Cities Act. It's not the discretion of the governor of any county to create municipalities.
Okay. I often find that a lot of times it's easy for us to look at the things that are not happening and say, okay, this is a mess. So can you paint a picture for us? If the different areas were actually functioning according to law, and when we say devolution has gone down to micro level, what should we see? What should actually be happening for us to say, yes, this is actually a function of devolution. It is happening properly. What would we see played out that we can say, okay, it's working, on to the next?
Well, I mean, are you asking me what systems should be underway? What plans and policies should be underway?
Well, Patrick, we can look at it today and we say this is not working because if we want to look at Kiambu headquarters, is where things should be happening. But if you look down at the level of Thogoto, you look at Ruaka, Thedegwa, these things are not happening. How do you know they're not happening?
But we know.
What would tell you now that they are happening?
How would that success
How would it look
picture
like?
look
How
like?
would success look like?
Yes.
I mean, it's a difficult question you put to me because I don't want to have to say this. I'm a Kenyan.
Okay.
And I don't want to have to say that we are in a state of collapse when we are talking about urban systems.
Why wouldn't you want to say it if that is the case?
Well, I mean, and I am going to say it now that you're pressing me to say it, that the urban sector is in a state of dysfunction. And it is because we are reluctant to allow them to set up as proper establishments in law that run municipal systems. We are unable and unwilling to create the civil service in those places that is required for the delivery of technical services, for
Okay,
instance.
Patrick, let me ask
And we
it
would
like-
rather run the services from the center.
Okay, now let me ask it like this, please, because I really want to understand. Because I know in my head what it would look like if you had this particular municipality was actually working properly. What does that mean when you say erect a civil service? What does that mean, and how then would that play out? That you then at that level have what? Your engineers, you have other members of the civil service doing what? What would I know that when I drove or walked into Thogoto, for example, I know that this is functioning? What would I see? How would I know that this is actually working?
Okay, let me attempt, and then Pat, you can help me. So, here is the ideal situation: that you go to Thogoto, and there is a proper town hall called Thogoto Town Hall.
Okay.
There is a mayor in Thogoto Town Hall. There is a board at Thogoto Town Hall dealing with various committees from finance to water to education to health to environment in Thogoto, because Thogoto has a population of 400,000 people, for example. So it's a concentration of human beings and businesses and activities in space that require close management.
Right.
And that Thogoto has representation in that board of local people that are participating in decision making and so on and so forth. There is a political leader in Thogoto who takes responsibility for failure of systems. If services are not provided, there's someone to get hold of and task with the responsibility or charge for the lack of, services and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That entity, that system, there is a civil service in Thogoto that is composed of engineers, planners, architects, teachers, doctors, rat catchers,
cleaners,
garbage collectors, drainage management, whatever it is.
Rat catchers.
That system is not in place.
That's true.
Patrick, I wanted to barge into that. I think first I want to correct one impression. They are municipalities. Even if you go to Kiambu,
Kiambu is a
you find
municipality.
They have got about 6 municipalities on record. They have got 6 municipalities
On record.
On record.
On record.
but the key thing that was required is that there should be fiscal decentralization. That they have got independent financial arrangement, independent institutional arrangement. We have developed institutions there to a level that they can be able to provide services that they're supposed to provide, and the service delivery outcomes shows us that these systems are actually working. Now, the part that the governors are not able to deal with,
Are not able to, are unwilling to.
are let's say unwilling to deal with, is the area of fiscal decentralization, because fiscal and also the human capacity development. So what you find is that municipality exists, but uses staff that are from the center. The budget, they do not have their own budget, but they are operating as a department of a county government. But
Whereas
not
they should be acting as
it's a level of governance.
Okay.
Yes. So that is the scenario that you find.
So what we're saying is, for example, Thika should have a mayor.
No, a chairman of a board.
A chairman of a board.
Okay, a chairman of a board.
In our dispensation,
not a mayor.
there is no mayor.
There's no
But
mayor.
There's a chairman of a board.
Yes.
Chairman of a board.
Of a board.
And this chairman of a board should have some level of autonomy.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Using other structures on what is happening in Thika.
Yes.
With representatives from the various parts of Thika, Makongeri,
Exactly.
Wapi, here.
Exactly.
And where is the MCA?
The MCA now are on the side of the checks and balances. These are the oversight responsibility.
These people, these board representatives, heads of, are they volunteers? Do they do it for free?
No. They
They are
get
employees
allowances.
of.
And currently they don't exist, or do they exist?
They do exist.
They are
exist.
there right
They
now.
exist.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all we're saying is take them from where they currently are
Yes.
and spread them around. We're not hiring new people because there's no.
No, what we are
money.
saying is,
No. Okay.
I think we're talking about what is it that is not devolving, what functions, what is not functional in the devolved system,
As is. Okay.
as is now. We are auditing. We are saying that in the old dispensation, there used to be properly constituted municipalities, and they were semi-autonomous. They had their revenue functions. They had finance committees.
Yes.
They had a mayor. They had somebody who took responsibility for systems failure.
They actually ran their own
service
affairs.
They ran their own affairs. They made decisions. And local people, much more importantly, participated in the decision making
at that level.
in their local area. Okay? Now, that is not as pronounced as it is now. Actually, Pat is short of saying this is a token system. It's tokenism. And we need to revisit it and ask, why is it that we cannot constitute municipalities the way envisaged in the Urban Areas and Cities Act?
Why is it incremental that you release this function today?
Yeah.
Gradually
10 years after devolution.
10 years after devolution, they have still not been given their functions.
The reason why, Tom, is because every time you release a function, you release money.
Of course.
And the example that they have is from the father, called the national government.
Yes.
Because the national government also, if you look at health, for instance,
Yes.
they have released functions to the counties, but the funding.
The funding remains at the center.
This is very helpful because essentially what you're saying today is that these things that are being suggested are not suggestions. They're actually in law.
Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Devolution has, by law, has prescribed some of these things.
Yes.
A majority of
in
them.
multiple laws.
All right? And they're not happening.
And they're not happening.
So then the law is being...
No, the service that the Mwananchi
Isn't
is
it?
supposed to
So
receive, the
what-
devolution.
So, I mean, if we're saying that these things should actually be set up according to law, the law is then not being followed. So then in that case, what essentially should happen?
Currently, what government is doing, together with the World Bank, is to introduce certain incentives in form of intergovernmental grants, and these grants are tied to making reforms in line with the laws that requires decentralization of urban governance. So we have what we call Kenya Urban Support Program, which is basically introducing certain funds. And the reason why you are seeing a rush towards creating municipalities, towns, and that sort is to access
To get the money.
the fund. And I have a problem whether this, remember, participating in this fund is not necessarily a commitment to the devolution cost.
Just to dip your hand.
Basically. And so we still need that commitment to implement devolution, especially at urban level, as was envisaged in the Constitution. And fundamentally, because one of the things that the Constitution was doing is to unlock Kenya's economic potential. And cities, how we run cities, is so key to how we unlock that economic potential. And it is not a matter that should be at the whims of a few
Some political
figureheads. It is a matter of national interest. Yes.
Yeah, but the point is that if oversight is weak, oversight at the county level, you asked what is the role of the MCA. If oversight is weak, and you also want to ask underqualified, are you oversighting a governor in a very complex system, and what's your capacity to do so? And therefore, can you ensure that the governor has all the municipalities that are qualified to be municipalities in keeping with the requirements of the law? And it's not discretionary. It is not because there is an incentive from the World Bank or any other person.
It's the law.
National government. It's the law.
Yes.
And people require it so that they can have a robust local economy. And the municipalities are catalysts for this local economy to happen.
Seriously.
You know, gentlemen, I don't know why we didn't have this as a proper thematic area in the last Devolution conference. And I think we should have it, you know, as a proper devolution conversation on what is actually happening on this.
Who decides on the theme of the conference? Is it not governors?
Yeah.
The people who you're asking to do what they're not doing.
But you see, they can see the sense. Okay, thank you very much for joining us both. Patrick and Patrick. Patrick Adolwa and Odongo Tom Patrick. Our guest this morning. Asanteni sana for joining us. No, this time come before Christmas so we can continue this conversation and pick it up some more.
Thank you for having us.
Asante sana. And thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. We're coming to the end, Senior. Yeah. It's 9:50. Yes. Thank you. See you again tomorrow. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.